Welcome to the Queries 2 participation project for the WV K-12 education problem. In this project, we're going to look at how we can use calculated fields to do some math in our queries. We'll look at how to format the visual output of fields, and we'll also see about using criteria to filter the results that are displayed. To get started, I've downloaded and extracted the provided data files, and I've opened up the starter file in Access. For our first query, we're going to display different statistics about proficiency testing. Let's go ahead and set up this query by going to the Create ribbon and clicking on Query Design. And we're going to see what fields we need to have. First field that's listed is school name, which I know comes from the schools table. So I'm going to drag that over into my query here, and I'll double click to add school name. Next is managing district, and that one is in school statistics. So I'll drag over school statistics, and we'll double click to add managing district. We're going to have the school year, so I'll add school year. Number of enrolled students, which is the enrollment. Number of students tested, which is students tested. And then we're going to have a calculated field. Calculated field allows us to go and do math based on the values that are stored in other fields. To create a calculate field, I'm clicking here in the blank column, and then under Query Tools Design on the ribbon there, I'm going to go into Builder. We're given a formula to use in the instructions, and it's pretty straightforward. We want to have students tested from school statistics, and we're going to divide that by enrollment from school statistics. So what I'm going to do here is under the expression elements box, I have the name of my database, and I can expand out with these little plus signs here to go and view the different tables and queries that are already stored in my database. Now I could type in everything manually, but if I go and click through here, I don't have to worry about mistyping or misspelling anything. I'm going to go and choose that I want to have students tested, and so I'll double click on that, and then I'm going to divide that, and so I'm going to put in a slash just from my keyboard, and I'm going to divide that by enrollment. Now when I click OK, you'll see that Access has automatically given this the name EXPR1. Basically what comes before the colon, if there is something before a colon, is the alias that Access is going to use for that column. EXPR1 is not really descriptive. So let's go and change that to something that's a little bit more useful in knowing what's actually in that column. So let's say we're going to call this Proficiency Testing Rate. That's a pretty good description of what we're calculating here with the proficiency test participation rate. And I'm going to click out of there, and then I'm going to go and run my query. See if we're on the right track with things here. We have 5,361 records, which matches what's in the instructions, and we have 6 fields. We've got our name of the school, the district, school year, enrollment. We have students tested, and in some cases students tested is just not available for some years for some schools. And then we have that calculated field, and right now that calculated field has really hard to understand numbers. We're looking at percentages here. There's values between 0 and 1, but there's a ton of decimal places. What we want to do is go and format the results in this last column so that they're a little bit easier to read. Let's go ahead back to Design View, and we can take care of our formatting by clicking in the column we're trying to format. We'll right click and go to Properties. I'm going to get rid of Add Tables here just so it's out of the way. We're going to see the format, and in this case we're told we want to format as a percentage, so we'll tell it %, and we want to go and do 2 decimal places. One thing I'm going to tell you here about decimal places is that many times in Access, if you go directly into view the properties without running the query, that decimal places option will be missing. Run your query first, and then you'll be able to see and set the number of decimal places for formatting a field. Let's go ahead and run this. and we can see things are a little bit easier to understand now. Our calculate field is now percentage with 2 decimal places as given in the instructions. And we need to go and sort things. So let's head back to design view. And we're told that we want to sort by managing district and then by school name, both in ascending order. So I'm going to set managing district to be ascending, and I'm going to set school name to be ascending. But I need to change the order of these 2 fields. The way Access works, it goes and starts on the left side, sorts by that field first, and then it works its way to the right. So the field that I want to sort by first needs to appear on the left. So if I go and click on the little top gray line here for the managing district column, it'll go and select the entire column, and then I can just drag it over so that it appears first. Let's go ahead and run this query again. So we can see now we're sorted by the managing district and then by our school name, and we have our numbers formatted as we want, have the right number of records and fields. So we're done with this query. Let's go ahead and save it. And since this is step 4A in the instructions, we're going to save this as query 4A. We'll click OK, and then we'll close it out. For our next query, we want to look at schools that had graduation rates greater than 90%. Let's go ahead and set up a new query by going to the Create ribbon, and we'll click on Query Design. I'm going to go ahead and close these 2 panes out just so that they're out of the way. And for this case, we're told that we need the managing district, which I know comes from school statistics. So I'm going to drag over school statistics. We'll double click on managing district. I want the school name, which is in the schools table. So I'll add that and double click on school name. I want the grades served, the school year, and the graduation rate. So I'm going to double click on grades served in school statistics. We want the school year, we'll add that, and the graduation rate. And we're told that we should only display records where the graduation rate was greater than 90%. Now, in Access's world, percentages are really decimal numbers between 0.0 and 1.0. So if we want to refer to a 90%, we're going to treat that as 0.9. So in the graduation rate column, because that's the one that I want to go and place a filter on, I'm going to click in this first row under criteria. It's the one that's right after where it has the show checkbox. I'm going to type in greater than 0.9. It's really important that you place your criteria on the correct field. If you put it on the wrong field, it's not going to work right. So you do need to be very specific about where you go and add these. Let's go ahead and run our query and see what we get. So we can see here that we have the 5 fields that are called for in the instructions and the 476 records, and it looks like our graduation rate is all above 90%. And we can see here that, for example, we have some years missing for some schools, and presumably those would be cases where their graduation rate was below that threshold. Let's go ahead and save our query, and this one is going to be query 4B. We'll click OK, and then we'll close out of this query. For our next query, we'd like to learn more about school districts. Let's go ahead and create the new query. On the Create ribbon, we'll click on Query Design, and we want to display information on districts that are in the North Central region or that have a population they serve of at least 110,000. And we're supposed to list the district, region, population, and school year. So we can get the population and the school year, and depending on how we want to treat things, also the district from district statistics. The region is going to come from the districts table. So I've added these 2 tables here. I'm just going to go ahead and grab district from the districts table, and I'll grab region from there as well. And then I'm going to pull the population and school year from district statistics. For our criteria here, we said that we only want to display districts that are in the North Central region. So let me go and set a criteria for that on the region field. And I want to do North Central, and I'm putting it inside a double quotes since it's a phrase that I want to use. Or ones that have a population of at least 110,000. Now, when we go and look at our criteria, you can see we kind of have multiple rows going across here. If we specify criteria on the same row, it means all of those criteria must be met in order for a record to be shown. If you put things on different rows, basically it means that one or the other. You have to satisfy at least one of those rows in order for that record to be displayed. So I have North Central here on this first row under the criteria section. Since I want to display records where they're in North Central or have a population of at least 110,000, I'm going to go down to the second row for the second part of that criteria under the population. At least means that it can be 110,000 or greater than 110,000. So I can enter my criteria as the greater than sign, equal sign, and then I'm going to go and type in my number 110000. Don't put in any commas when you're talking about numbers. And let's go and run this query and see what we get. So we have our district, we have the region, population, school year. That's the 4 fields that we were asked for. And we're displaying 70 records, which is the correct number. So you can see here we have districts from the north central part of West Virginia, including some relatively lesser populated ones like Barber and Doddridge. But then we also have some larger districts that are outside of north central West Virginia, like Berkeley County, which grew to be above the 110,000 threshold, and Kanawha County, the Charleston area here, which already was above the 110,000 threshold. So this query is done. Let's go ahead and save it. We're going to call this query 4C, and then we'll close out. For our fourth query, we're going to use some NOT criteria to filter records out of the results. Let's get started by going to the Create ribbon, and we're going to click on Query Design, and we'll go through the fields that are listed in the instructions. First one that we're given is Managing District, and I know that one's in School Statistics, so I'm going to add the School Statistics table to my query here, and I'll double click on Managing District to add it to the query results. We have School Name, which comes from the Schools table, so I'm going to drag that over, and we'll add School Name by double clicking on it. Grade served is back under School Statistics. School year is also there. And we need the school type name, and that's going to be in the school types table. So I'm going to drag that one over and then add school type name. And we are told that we only want to display records for schools that are not elementary schools or intermediate schools. So we want cases where they are not an elementary school and not an intermediate school. Let's go and look at our school types tables records. So you can see we have intermediate school here and elementary school. So we want not elementary school and not intermediate school. For our criteria, we're going to place that on the school type name. And we can just go ahead and start typing in the criteria row. In access to do not, you do the less than symbol followed by the greater than symbol. Those together mean not. So I'm going to tell it that I want not elementary school with elementary school inside of double quotes. And I want ones that are also not intermediate school. So I'm going to type in the keyword and then I'll do the not symbol again with less than, greater than, and we'll do intermediate school inside of quotes. Let's run this query, and I'm going to go back to Query Tools Design here so I can see the Run button, and you can see that the ones that were strictly intermediate school or elementary school are gone. Now ones that have elementary in the name, those ones are still there as long as it wasn't strictly elementary school. So that's like why we have for Casson Elementary here, we have elementary / middle school. This is not the criteria we entered, so it's good. We have 2,212 records, and we have 5 fields. So looks like we're in good shape. Let's save this query, and it is going to be 4D. And I'll close it out. For our final query, we're given some SQL code in the instructions. Let's get things set up so that we can copy and paste that SQL code by going to the Create ribbon and clicking on Query Design again. And then we're going to switch over to SQL View. And I'm just going to get rid of the select statement that's already there. With it highlighted, I can just press the backspace key. I'm going to go to the instructions, and this is the code that we're given. And it's just going to find for different school names, what managing district they have, and then what the population of that district was, and the dropout rate for the 2019-2020 school year. With that query highlighted, I'll right-click and tell it to copy it to the clipboard, and then I'm going to go back over into Access, and I'll right-click and paste it. And then I can run this query. When I run the query here, we're getting a lot more records than I would expect. The instructions say that we're supposed to have 652 records, but we're getting more than 40,000. And we can see that we have this same school that's showing up in multiple districts. So something's not quite right here with our relationships. And let's go ahead over to Design View, and you can see that there is nothing that directly connects schools and district statistics. So we're getting a Cartesian product of the two. There's a table that goes and bridges the two of those. And we can head over to the Relationships window and take a look under Database Tools Relationships. We can see that we have schools connects to school statistics, and school statistics also connects to district statistics. So I'm going to close back out of Relationships here, and I'm going to add that school statistics table to my query. Now there are lines connecting everything. And back on Query Tools Design, I can run this query, and I'm now getting the correct number of 652 records here. And you can see each of these schools just shows up as being part of one district. I'm going to save my query. This will be query 4E. I'm going to click OK, and then we're going to close it. To answer the analysis question, let's open the analysis questions table. This is going to be question number 5A. And we're asked if there's a relationship between a district's population and its dropout rate, and we're told that we should explain our answer. In this case, I actually took the population and dropout rate and copied those values into an Excel spreadsheet and used the correl function there. And what I found is that it has a correlation of 0.308 between the two values, which means that there is a relationship between the population and the dropout rate. And if you think about it, that makes sense, to some extent at least, that if you're in an area with larger population, you tend to have more students in schools. And for some people, when you're in a larger school, it can kind of be harder to really connect with on a one-on-one basis with people just because there's more people around. More students that need assistance from each teacher. So you might have problems getting the attention from teachers or from administrators that you need to help you stay engaged and be able to stay in school. It's not the only cause, but that seems like one plausible answer. So I went and listed that as my response. And go ahead and click out of that cell to save the response that I've given, and I'm going to close analysis questions. The last thing that we need to do is run the Compact and Repair Database utility. We'll go to the Database Tools ribbon and click the Compact and Repair Database button. Just as a reminder, if you get an error when you go and run Compact and Repair Database, double check that you don't have a file syncing utility like for Dropbox or OneDrive that might be trying to access your file at the same time. You might need to pause file syncing or potentially pause your antivirus when you go and run Compact and Repair Database. With that done, we're finished with this project. You'll want to close out of Access and submit your file.